So turn down the lights, lock the door. It's time for DJs After Dark.
Oh, baby.
Hey, everybody. Danny J here, along with Dr. Rock Ray Thomas.
Why do we sound like a vibrator factory when that comes on?
We got...
Because we are.
We got Freddie Prince himself, DJ Rob Cannon. Fast Eddie C. The Lord Almighty.
These are your 10 commandments.
Eddie has passed away.
He's 15. Crap.
Eddie has passed away, but we were able to get him in heaven. Eddie, go back. Oh, there he is.
There he is.
Yeah, Eddie.
The
Eddie.
DJ God.
We summoned Eddie to be on our show. Eddie, can you talk?
Yes, I can.
There he is.
If he was to say don't eat meat on Friday with that backdrop, people wouldn't eat meat.
Look at this. Eddie.
He's the Lord. The Lord Eddie C.
Could you imagine if you get an epiphany of God and that's what you see? You see this right here. You're like, oh my God! Is this
I'm going straight to hell.
He's damn sexy.
Oh my God!
My Bible lied to me.
And by the way, Matt Sutter's here. Look at that.
Yes.
How are
Good
you?
to be back, gentlemen. Good to be back.
Very good.
Hello, Matthew.
We got an interesting show for you today. Before I even get into that, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button right below the video.
I'm going to hit that right now.
And then make sure you're sharing this on your social medias so this way other people can subscribe it as well. We got plenty of shows on here, and I want you guys to all enjoy it, but we're looking to get subscriptions up and stuff like that. So do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and enjoy. Today we're going to be talking about bands that have over the years have changed their sound basically, or slightly changed their personas and their sound to keep up with the times and to stay relevant. Some bands have not changed anything at all and are going 50 years running. Some bands had to change stuff up and just to kind of stay younger or stay relevant.
Right.
And we're going to talk about that kind of stuff today. A lot of bands that have done this, and I can name a few and stuff like that. The one band who literally is one of my favorite bands of all time, period. And it's easy to say that comment, but they literally are one of my
Split
favorites.
Decision?
Menudo? Was it Menudo?
Menudo. They changed every 5 years. Menudo changes every 5 years.
Right.
Oh, they get in Rob Cannon's van, and then all of a sudden they got to get a whole new grass.
There we go.
Ricky Martin bangs, and they got somebody new. Go.
You know,
Right?
but seriously, one of my favorite bands that have done this was the band Chicago.
Yes.
When they were Chicago Transit Authority, when they first came out.
That was their real name in the
Yeah,
In the
Chicago
beginning.
Transit Authority.
Yes.
Chicago
Yes, it
Transit
was.
Authority.
That's absolutely correct.
1960 something. I forget.
69.
69?
68, I'm sorry.
68.
Right.
Now think about that. 1968 versus like they were no longer relevant in the 90s.
Well, they were forced to get rid of their horns because their record company fired their whole horn section. Remember when they were doing all the love songs with no horns?
Yes.
And then finally people said, wait a minute, bring back the horns.
Well, what happened was you go from Chicago Transit Authority to Chicago. And I think when they went to Chicago is when they got Peter Cetera. But see, Peter Cetera was not originally, he wasn't the original.
He was not.
It was the, it's the keyboarder.
No, Cetera was original. It was Robert Lamb. He also was original. It was Terry Kath, who was the guitar player that passed away.
Right.
When they changed their sound and stuff like that.
Now, obviously, you get Peter Cetera, and you have great songs.
Right.
Baby, What a Big Surprise. If You Leave Me Now.
Well, that's
Hard
what
to
you
Say I'm
used to
Sorry.
sing when you saw me.
Right.
Yeah.
In the
Stay
van.
the night.
In the van.
Well, you move
That
forward.
was a love song, but that was again, that was a great song.
The funny thing is, though, when I was growing up, because all I really had was radio. We didn't have MTV. We didn't have music videos back then.
Everclear.
It was one of those things where I knew these songs. I knew If You Leave Me Now. It was such a popular hit. I knew Baby What a Big Surprise. I knew Saturday in the Park. You know,
Hard Habit to Break.
Hard Habit to Break comes later, but you're talking about when you get to Chicago 17. 16 was like If You Leave Me Now.
Right.
When you get to Chicago 17, that's now the age of video. Stay the Night is one of the first videos off of that album, right? And I said, oh, and then I'm liking them, and I'm a kid, but then I'm like, wait a minute, this guy sounds familiar. oh shit, it's that he must sing that song.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And then you start to do the correlation that I've known this band longer than I've known them, you know, as far as in seeing them. So Stay the Night is one of the first videos off of Chicago 17, and cool video for the time or whatever. It was just a cool song and stuff like that. You get the Hard Habit to Break, you get to a number of other things, and then what happens is Peter Cetera finally says, you know what, I want to go my own way.
Worst mistake he ever made.
I don't know. He did
He was
a lot
going
of
to go with Ann Wilson, if you remember.
he did a lot of great duets.
Mhm.
He ended up doing duets with Cher, with Amy Grant, with Shaka Khan, and
Marge
others,
Simpson.
and Marge Simpson. Yes, and everything. but he had a lot of great songs. He did "The Power of Love" was like his biggest hit on his own,
Mhm.
which was for the Karate Kid too. But they get this other singer, and forgive me, and Matt, you're the statistician here. If you can look up the singer that took over after Peter Cetera
Yes,
in
I
Chicago
can find
18. Chicago 18 comes out. They have this brand new singer,
Mm-hmm.
and he's a younger guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a great voice. And now,
Jason Thomas.
yeah, it was Jason Thomas.
Are we doing a
Split
free
Decision.
plug for?
Split Decision?
You got it.
No. But
We'll make a split decision on that.
this guy brought in a newer sound. He had a great voice. They still
Hey,
have
Dan.
one. Yes.
They replaced him with singer and bassist Jason Sheaf or Chef.
Absolutely.
Probably Chef.
Right.
Got a
Chief.
great
I
voice.
think he's actually still with them too.
He
by the
is.
way. Yeah, he's
He
still with
is.
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he comes out. They come out with Chicago 18, and now you have If She Would Have Been Faithful. You have.
Did any of these songs chart?
Yeah, they all did.
What year?
They
was
charted,
this?
but they didn't chart top
Chicago
10.
18 was what, Matt? 1990.
Oh, man.
Let's see here.
Chicago 18.
But there's
86. Well, they say they released. He took over for Peter Cetera before 1986 is Chicago
Correct.
18. So 86.
And he's still with them if you
He's
watch
still
the
with
live
them.
concerts.
Yeah, he's still with them now. These songs, If You Would Have Been Faithful was a big hit with them. It was on Eagle 106 all the time.
Right.
It was another one was Matt, help me out here because I'm blanking on, and they're all good songs. There's If She Would Have Been Faithful.
Hang on,
Chicago
looking.
18 track list. They
That's
still,
what I'm doing.
in classic Chicago fashion, there are still songs on the Chicago album that you're like, what the fuck is this?
Mm-hmm.
Because they on every album they had a what the fuck song.
Will You Still Love Me?
Will You Still Love
That
It?
was the big one.
Matt, are you
Yeah.
becoming familiar to you
Yeah,
now
yeah.
again? Yeah. Will You Still Love Me was a big one. What was another one on there, Matt? If You Would Have Been Faithful, Will You Still Love Me? There was a third one.
Hang on. Oh, wait a minute. Let me see this because that may not be the actual track list for that album because it seems like there's some songs over here that were. Hang on. Why
But
is this not
the
opening up?
point of it, while Matt's looking up these tracks, they sounded younger.
25 or 6 to 4.
They redid that, right? They redid.
Yeah, they redid that one.
25,
'Cause I'm saying, but
yeah, such a great.
Nothing's going to stop us now.
Nothing's going to stop it. What kind of man would I be?
right.
What
But
kind
How
of
many,
man
how
would
many
I
lead
be?
singers did they go through?
That's it.
That's
Three,
it.
right?
3. That was
That's
it.
And Robert Lamb is still with them
And
too.
the guy and they still had horns on Chicago 18, but it was minimal.
Mm-hmm.
It was minimal because they were going with a more rockish sound.
And they were going with a more synthesized.
synthesized sound, and this was the time. How about it, Matt? Of like monster ballads.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Ballads were
yeah.
Really not
Look at
any of
Lighthouse.
that.
And
Every band, even if you were not a ballad band,
no
had a ballad.
well,
Country artists.
Country artists were the
They
kings
come
of
out with the
ballads, better ballads. But monster
Dream of a
ballads,
Star-
monster
something
ballads.
about
When
the
you
stars.
got groups like,
Keeper of the Stars.
that awesome song. Tracy.
well, you got groups like Chicago. We'll get into it, but Boston released Amanda like
Mhm.
about 15 years after it was written.
Wow.
Yeah.
They never released it when it was written.
Wow, I never knew that.
And when that
Oh,
came out in 87,
Mhm.
that song was written in like 79. or
It
something
was.
like
They
that.
held it. They held it.
And they held it. I forget what the reason why, but it didn't make the track list of one of the albums back then.
Mhm.
And they had held on it and they said, let's release it now. And it reinsurged Boston, at least for that time frame. It didn't come out with anything else per
Yeah,
se.
right.
And then when Boston broke up, the lead singer started a new band.
Yep.
And they didn't really do anything. They did one album.
Passed away.
Yeah.
But let's take a band back in the 80s, like New Kids on the Block, Backstreet Boys,
Right.
90s. Actually.
Their resurgence is big time
Actually,
right now.
Backstreet Boys was early.
But now
90s,
you're talking about a different.
but they're coming out with.
But you're talking about something that's different though, because these are guys that, for the most part, are not writers.
right.
These are guys that were put together, because you're talking about boy bands.
Yeah.
Boy bands, a different animal altogether, because here's like, we're going to handpick people
Right.
who don't know each other.
Yeah.
Right.
They're
That's,
Like one
that's a label and a manager saying we're doing auditions, we're putting a group together
right.
versus
Believe it or not,
musicians coming together.
That was the
This
most.
is not like the three of us being a band and we know each other for 30 years and blah, 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 and we gel because of how well we know each other.
Yeah.
These are kids that are put together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, when you talk a band, now the other side of this is a group like the Stones.
Mhm.
Now, the Stones changed their sound.
They rented, yeah.
Yeah.
When they first came out, just like the Beatles, because the Beatles did it too,
Beatles did it.
they were hokey rock and roll.
Mhm.
They were blues, English blues,
Yeah, right.
English blues.
And then you start getting into the times, because now you're talking about it was late 60s, now you're going into the 70s, and now you're getting into what we now call classic rock, but you're getting into these more psychedelic
yes,
rock songs and
Right.
stuff like that. And the blues is more coming out in a
Mhm.
sense,
Mhm.
especially with the Stones. Beast of Burden, stuff
Right,
like that.
right, right.
A lot different from when they first came out. Like
Get
people,
off my cloud and stuff.
right?
Like that,
People don't realize
Queen
that
did a lot of changes too. And they tried different.
they
Queen?
tried different, but I don't know.
Yes,
I don't
they
think they
did.
did.
Like another one bites the dust was far different.
Well, but they
Bohemian
did
Rhapsody.
disco.
Right.
But they were but Queen was just more of an eclectic band anyway. If you see any interviews, I mean, they all kind of have their own background,
Right.
and they said the one thing that really worked for them was they are democracy. So they start writing songs, and it's like, okay, well, the songwriting on the albums is very well balanced between the different artists. So this guy wrote this one, this guy wrote this one, and they figure out which ones work best for the set, that work best together to make a cohesive
They
album.
didn't even like the song Bohemian Rhapsody. They didn't want it out.
That was too
They didn't
long
want it.
for radio.
Well, the guys
That
in the
was the big
band
problem.
didn't like the whole vibe. And Freddie said, "Look, we're going with this. This is what we're doing."
Yeah.
And Freddie was
And
like,
as a democracy, they're like, okay, well, then Freddie, you're going to get this
they
one.
threatened to.
Right.
I thought they
I
did.
think they might have. They might have actually left
That's
the
a
label.
great movie, by the way.
Oh yeah, if you go
haven't
see
seen
Bohemian
that,
Rhapsody, you have to
great
see it.
movie.
Great movie. We're going to do a
Um,
plug on that one.
But another band that ended up doing this too, it wasn't as I guess successful as Chicago, was Bad Company.
Mhm.
Bad Company got a new, and once again, Matt, jump on there. Bad Company singer that took over 1988,
Well,
87,
Free
something like that.
became.
Yeah.
They were
Free
before-
became Bad Company, and then
Right.
Bad Company, right?
But what Bad Company ended up
Was
doing
that the
was
same member?
they had the album that the
Paul Rogers was the lead singer. Of
the
it.
title track off the album was Holy Water. That was the title of the album too, I believe it was Holy Water.
You're
Look
correct.
at here. Look at there.
And the song that became the hit was "Here Comes Trouble," and it wasn't supposed to be the hit off
Right.
that album. but-
Well, Holy Water was a mild hit.
Right.
Mild hit. The other song they did, once again, jumping into monster ballads, was
yeah. What is
uh,
that
the
song?
song. I have it on my phone.
I do too.
Brian Howe.
No,
Brian Howe replaced Paul
No, I
Rogers.
feel like
Right.
Look,
Brian Howe. No, I feel like making love was.
No, it was
Classic.
a ballad song.
There was a
We all-
monster ballad on it. Bring up that track list of Holy Water. It's like I think it's the 6th track.
Yep, and it's
Discography. Let's see. Holy Water.
Holy
Uh,
Water was the main track that came out.
no, it's the ballad.
Holy water.
They talk about
Let's
love.
see. Holy Water, Walk Through Fire,
If you
Stranger,
needed
Stranger.
someone, it was called
If
"If You
You-
Needed Someone" or something.
Yeah,
like that.
If you needed somebody. If you needed somebody. Yeah, track 4.
That was a big monster ballad hit. That was a big monster ballad hit. And it brought Bad Company to the foreground of that time and that era.
Mhm.
They were no longer a classic rock band that was washed
They were
up
beating
10 years
bands that were
before.
younger than them.
They were.
Like Extreme and stuff.
And it made them younger.
Right,
It
made
literally
them younger.
Now, a band that one of my favorite bands of all time.
The Archies.
Chicago.
Well, Chicago. Well, no, Chicago, because Chicago. But one of my favorite bands of all time is 38 Special.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
and now
38 Special.
yeah.
And
Great
half
band.
of them are in Grand Funk Railroad right now.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. Now I just saw 38
Wait a
Special
minute.
2 years ago.
38 Special Grand Funk they came.
Yeah, they combined because they got rid of the original
never
lead
knew
singer.
that
of
either.
Grand
Well,
Funk.
no, original lead singer of
They tricked him out of the
38
band.
Special is still with 38 Special though now,
Oh.
because they changed him up in the 90s, in the early 90s. and that's when you get the song Second Chance.
Yep. And they do that at the Grand Funk shows too.
And what do you call it? And they you know, they did a little bit there, but they were now 90s. So now you're seeing the guys in all leather. And the big time back in the 90s was the flat cowboy hats with the long teased out hair.
I hate to tell you, we just saw Grand Funk and they came out with the long leather coat, and he did that Second Chance.
That's, I'm telling you, it's one of those things where they once again made themselves relevant, and it kind of drove away from their original music because obviously they're getting with the times. But it was something to keep relevant. Now, a band that kind of did it but didn't, I would say would be Aerosmith.
Right.
Because Aerosmith kind of stayed rock the whole time, but there's a big difference between Permanent Vacation and Pump. And the difference is
correct,
drugs.
but the last 4 Aerosmith albums went nowhere because they tried to stay too relevant.
Well, you know, the difference is drugs. Once they got off the drugs, like Pump was a ridiculously successful album.
They got back together on Permanent Vacation. They had broken up for almost 3 years.
But now Permanent Vacation got songs like Angel, once again,
Ragdoll
and stuff like that. Ragdoll, Loving
and they got that resurgence though to Run DMC doing Walk This Way.
Yeah, Run DMC.
And their label said, if you guys are going to do this right, you guys want this song to really break, let me talk to the guys in Aerosmith, and we'll do it as Run DMC featuring Aerosmith.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was the only way.
It broke Run DMC huge, and it brought Aerosmith back in and made them relevant again.
That was a good hit.
And what what a difference once again from songs like Toys in the Attic and
Big 10-inch,
and stuff like that. I mean,
they were singing that about you, Ray, right?
They wrote it about me, Rob.
I know.
Although it's rock, their sound was different and it kept them relevant. Now, I don't think past the 70s, the Stones did that. After a while, the Stones were like, we're not putting out any more music, aside from Mick Jagger doing his solo career.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that didn't go too well.
And that didn't go that well. You know, and
any of the stuff that they did release was more of that classic Stones sound.
That sound.
This is like, well, this is our sound because we know we're not worried about appealing to a younger audience. If we do, great. If not, the longtime fans are going to be great. I've got a new Stones album I can buy, and it's still my Stones.
I don't think the Stones get the credit they deserve because they're monsters of knowing what's relevant. Like their last studio album was an all blues album.
Yeah.
They brought back to this generation and the newer generation.
Yeah. Well, the resurgence in blues helped that. They say, you know, it's making a comeback.
Ed is a big Engelbert Humperdinck fan.
After the loving, big guy.
After the loving.
Loves him. He sings that.
Save the last dance for me.
Ed, Ed's primarily a dance guy.
Right. This conversation I'm finding very interesting, but I can't interject because I'm like kind of.
Did you not like any rock at all, Ed?
I love rock. I love rock.
Ed liked rock.
But Ed, did you not see any of the bands that you like changed at times? Like you could sit there and say, like for example, Kiss did a disco song.
Yes.
But they didn't change their sound.
Made for loving you, baby.
Yeah.
But they didn't change their songs after that.
They didn't kiss off.
No, they really didn't. They just said, "This is what we are."
I want to rock and roll.
Oh no!
It's called. This is a song that's going to get us airplay, and it's going to get us into the clubs.
Yeah.
And it's going to keep us. It's going to let's keep our momentum through that disco era.
Right. Exactly.
And let's be honest, Kiss was the most simplest chords you've ever heard in your life. But like, you know,
they made it work.
Dr. Love and stuff, another one they wrote about me. But the thing is, they kept it very simple.
They were going to call it Dr. Rock.
And it was all about the stage show. And it's another marketing genius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and there's the thing. There's always been those theories why Kiss is always in all capital letters. And there were the anti-rock groups for a while that said it was like Knights in Satan's service, whatever. My theory is the reason why it's all capitalized is it is an anagram, and it's keep it simple. Keep it simple, stupid, and that's because that's what their songs are.
Like
they're very simple, straightforward.
It's kiss my ass.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So,
not you. You're too nice to say that.
Thank you.
There goes Dan with that sneaky laugh. It's reminding him of his mother-in-law.
Yes.
Way to go.
How many times did you tell her bad things, Dan? Didn't you say mean things to your mother-in-law?
I still do.
I'm going home right now and singing
like my
Love Gun to
mother-in-law
Mrs. Rock.
has a butterfly tattooed on her coolie on her butt, right? I said,
showed you?
no, I know it's there, and I said by now that thing must look like fucking Mothra.
God,
Nice.
because Dan don't give a shit.
There's the butt of bad jokes right there. Here's your butt of bad jokes.
Oh my.
Oh, Dan.
You know what I mean? But you know,
Oh, God.
And again, another band. It's
off the rails. Go ahead.
if we're talking about bands that change their sound. I mean, Dan talked about his favorite band of all time, Chicago,
right?
and my favorite of all time is Journey.
Yeah.
Now their sound changed though very early on.
Mhm.
Their first 3 albums don't sound anything like
Because
what
that
came out
Barry is
once
their
Steve
singer.
joined in like 77.
Right.
He joined. I mean, I don't know, Dan. If try clicking on me because I'm hoping this will to bring me up.
You knew
I want
that.
to see if this is going to work.
Matt, you knew that Steve Perry
All right, I
wasn't
got
their
you
original
clicked.
lead
Go ahead.
singer, didn't you?
Yes, but Greg Raleigh was their original lead vocalist.
Right.
But you know who was actually before Steve Perry?
Yeah,
Did you not know that one?
Robert
Robert Fleischman.
Yes.
Robert Fleischman was with him briefly, did a little bit of touring with him, wrote a couple songs, but never appeared on an album. He ended up singing for Vinnie Vincent Invasion.
And
But
then
let's see if this comes up right.
First Journey album came out with that singer, and that album charted before Perry got there.
Yeah, but here you go. Here's one of their early songs.
Huh?
I
Here you go. Are you guys hearing the audio on this?
No.
No.
One of the
No.
hits that Perry redid was on that.
Damn,
first
I
album.
don't know why that's not working. That link
But
should
I'll
work.
play
That
it
should have been a
anyway, but
YouTube,
you know
whatever.
It's gonna get
But
me
it's well, again, did like 14 seconds, and it's on YouTube, so it shouldn't get you blocked because it's actually up on YouTube. It's a link from YouTube. But anyway, but yeah, I mean, their stuff was like very early, psychedelic, progressive kind of jazz overtones. After about the third album, they were selling out, stadiums. They were playing, and their concerts were selling great. But then the sound on radio was changing by the mid 70s, and the label's like, you guys got to get a dedicated vocalist and write something that's got real, radio friendly stuff. And then that's how they changed.
Here's an interesting thing too, getting along with that, with changing the sound. What was the most influential Beatles album?
Oh, it changed the course of history. It was Sgt. Pepper's.
Sgt. Pepper's, right?
Yeah.
Now, when Sgt. Pepper's came out, a competitive album was coming out at the same time.
See if you know this.
From the Beach Boys.
Exactly right.
And what happened was the Beach Boys, I forget what the reason was, but there was a delay in the release of the album.
Which one?
I know what it is.
I forget the name of the album.
Well, Paul McCartney even said that Pet Sounds was better than Sgt. Pepper's.
It was a better album, and had their original timing, which the timing of the Beach Boys album was going to be first, and then something happened where it had to be delayed, and Sgt. Pepper's came out instead. Had that been the case, history would have recognized the Beach Boys first as the changing history of music.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a big thing. You're like, the Beach Boys? You're like, yeah.
Brian Wilson wanted it to be perfect.
Yeah.
And people didn't realize that Brian Wilson was tone deaf.
Yeah.
And yet, if you listen to the album Pet Sounds, it's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And Brian Wilson's daughter?
Huh? The girl from
Nancy.
Hanson. It's two.
Nancy.
Nancy.
Daughter.
Oh, Nancy Wilson?
Yeah,
No.
wasn't she?
No, Nancy Wilson.
No, and who was the girl with
Wilson Phillips?
Wilson Phillips.
That's Carney Wilson.
Carney Wilson.
Yeah. Carney Wilson.
Carney Wilson.
Yeah.
And then
the girl from the Mom, the Papas.
What's her name? China Phillips.
Yeah.
China Phillips. Yeah.
And the redhead who was a Wilson.
Yeah. I can't remember her name either.
They were hot.
Which I'm surprised because I love redheads and I'm surprised I don't remember the redhead's name.
Ready for another show.
And let me tell you something.
She's
She's a hot number. That Wilson.
because you're just looking at her going, my God, redhead.
Redhead.
Mm-hmm. Anyway.
But anyway, yeah. But I mean, once again, these are bands that have done that, and they changed their sound, and they've to become more positive. Now, to what end? Now, the funny thing is, a lot of bands who stopped doing that after a while and stopped producing new music and stopped changing, just said, all right, we're done now.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's tour the same fucking music for the next 30 years,
Mm-hmm.
i.e. the Stones, i.e. You can't really say that they changed their sound, but like AC/DC, stopped making stuff, and they're just like, they put on a killer show
Yeah,
with stuff that's from 50 years ago.
I was watching something on Facebook. It was about how AC/DC. Could you imagine a song being sung like the Hokey Pokey? It was about.
With Brian
Did you hear
Johnson's
that?
voice.
Yeah,
with
He's like,
Jim Brewer.
Yeah,
It was Jim Brewer.
I forget.
Yeah,
And
it was Jim
funny.
Brewer. Who?
Well,
by the way-
here's a good question, though. Here's a good question for you. Bands that at some point kind of changed their sound to the point where you didn't like them anymore.
Foreigner.
Really?
Foreigner, when they admitted too, that song, You Want to Know What Love Is? That became, all of a sudden, became a ballad band. And people were like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What happened to Cold
Cold as Ice and Hot Blooded and Dirty White.
Jukebox Hero and all that. We just
Right.
watched Foreigner.
Sometimes you can go too far.
One thing I could say
For me,
outside of what was his name?
Lou Reed.
Lou Reed. Was it Lou Reed?
No, in Foreigner,
No.
Lou
Wasn't Lou?
Lou Graham. I'm sorry. Lou Graham.
Lou Graham.
Lou Graham.
Lou Graham. When Lou Graham left, they got an American guy who sounds like fucking Lou Graham.
Right.
Kelly
Did you
Hansen.
see the band's back together again, and the old and the old new sing together.
Oh,
They come back, and the
I
old guy
just
comes
saw
back.
them
It's
last
neat.
summer. I saw Foreigner last summer.
Jason, my son, met them
Of Split
at-
Decision.
at Parks Casino. Said they were the nicest guys you'd ever want to meet.
Now, for me, it was
Who
you
the hell
too.
was doing that. I thought he.
You too?
It's God.
Yeah,
I
like
think-
when after they did Rattle and Hum, they did that whole Zooropa and that.
Oh,
and
Yeah.
Matt,
and,
great
and once
choice.
they did that,
They became like a dance group.
I think.
yeah, and
I
I think they kind of went back a little bit, a couple albums later. But it was that point. It was like going, okay, yeah, I'm not interested anymore now.
right. The novelty had worn off.
Yeah, and it was just like
with being relevant. And a good classic example of being relevant, and I always bring it up in other shows as examples, but Metallica.
Yes.
When Metallica lost Jason Newsted as their bassist and backup vocalist,
And then they
right?
got Jason Thomas.
Yeah, they got
From-
Split Decision.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
And they got what's that troll's name that he's in there?
Robert Trujillo.
Robert Trujillo. They got him in there, right? And it was like we have to put an album out just to show people that we're not gone.
Yeah,
So they
they
come
put
up
out
with
Saint Anger.
And Saint Anger supposedly was going back to their roots, going back to their garage days, and it was a god awful album.
Yeah.
But it was their attempt of saying we need to stay relevant because we were at the top of the monster rock food chain
Right.
for the last 10 years.
Because of the Black Album, a lot of people thought that
and
they
Black
sold
being
themselves
plus-
out for the Black Album.
The Black album, every single
Why does it
track
get
The song
is
was
good.
great,
Why did it
Every
have to
single-
be black?
Why?
Everybody said like it was.
but
I know there's a lot of people though that badmouth that Black Album though.
Puppets.
But you know what?
For
Though, and I'll
everything.
tell you this, and
I'll say the problem that people have with the Black Album. I hate to say that when they say it's not a metal album, it's a metal album. It's just not a thrash album.
that's right.
It was pure hard rock.
Yeah, they
You could go and drink
Kill 'Em All,
beers.
Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, and Justice for All. They were all thrash. Play as hard and as fast as we can.
Like Dave Mustaine and what was his
Yeah.
name? That
Yeah.
band.
Sure.
Yeah.
Megadeth and
Megadeth.
I mean they were pure thrash.
But you know
Black
what?
Album was
Black
like more
Album
almost kind of like an updated Black Sabbath.
Yes.
It was heavy, but it wasn't super fast.
But Black
And it was
Album,
in a real cool way.
but the Black Album showed their talent
Yep.
as
it did.
performers.
And
It
their
was,
songwriting ability.
it was I don't want to say use the word an evolution, but it was a growth. Much
Yeah.
like, and you could say the same thing with Guns N' Roses
Yep.
with
Yeah.
User Illusion 1 and 2.
Yeah,
It
it's
was a
called
big-
We're Not a One Trick Pony. We're not a one trick pony. We
We're
have
growing.
depth. We have ability.
One band who
Right.
had it all, and they
We-
just were
we're
selfish in
growing.
themselves.
And the Black Album was now you get Load and Reload, which were okay.
They were okay.
They were okay.
Again,
They weren't-
there was experimentation there, and some tracks were better than others. But again, they were overall they were
but like
solid.
Master of Puppets and the Black Album, every single track was great.
Oh yeah,
And Justice for All, not every single track was great, but the majority of them were.
more great.
Which
Yeah,
is one of my and Justice for All is one of my favorite ones. So
yeah.
but that was another band that did that, I guess. Now, Eddie, would you say that Rob Bass changed the sound?
I'm sorry.
Speaking about,
He's so busy being ethereal there in his cloud, he totally missed the conversation.
the alarm went off.
Let's have a seance.
Eddie, has Demay changed her sound since she came out? Demay.
Hello, I am Renee.
How about Vicky Carr?
The only reason I changed my sound is because I've been talking to basement for the next 13 years. I need a cup.
How
I need
about
an adult.
Petula Clark?
Dan, do some of your impressions you used to do on the show. Just to break this up for a second. Go ahead.
Hello.
I swear to God, I don't smoke, but I'm going to take it up.
That would have been
Dan,
What do I
how about skeleton?
the other nice thing you used to do.
I got the echo.
Not the good guy.
It's not the good echo.
But still, you could do
Skeleton!
That's good enough.
You forgot the one?
Dear
That up.
Lord.
Oh, I love Skeletor.
Hello, Eddie! It's your friend, your modern master Skeletor!
Wasn't it Mr. Frosty?
Hello, Frosty!
Ladies and gentlemen, Metallica.
All right.
Brack. Dan needs to do Brack. I haven't heard Dan do Brack in like so long.
I haven't done bragging forever right now.
That's probably why I haven't heard you do it in so long.
See what all you people are missing? Tell your friends about listening to this show, man.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go. That should be
Hello.
a show. Everybody on this show
Hello.
doing their favorite impressions.
Hello, I am Danae, and you're listening to DJs After Dark, and I am in the basement. Please call the police. I need help. They haven't fed me in 3 days. Hello.
And I have a new hobby
Look, Eddie
called
left.
making things with lint.
Look at this.
He's
Oh, there he
laughing
is.
so
He's
hard.
back.
Oh, jeez, I'm knocking everything over.
Eddie,
Not hard.
Eddie, all right there.
Oh, Eddie.
Anyway, hey, we got
Playing
a
with his fuck.
Great show.
That was yeah.
wonderful,
great show.
marvelous.
But the bottom line is, check out all these bands. And some people are a fan of it, some people are not. One honorable
How
mention
about
of
Nicholas
this.
Shea?
Nicholas Shea, there you go. No, one honorable mention of this would be Van Halen.
Yeah.
When they switched over to Sammy Hagar, they adopted Sammy Hagar's sound.
Yes, they did.
And it worked just as well.
Yeah,
Because Sammy Hagar was a very, very good
And then they brought
artist.
They
David
called him
Black.
Van Hagar for a while.
Well, then they had to know what they did. They tried to get the guy from Extreme.
Gary
They did.
Sharon. Which was not bad.
Denise.
It wasn't bad, but it just wasn't Van Halen.
It wasn't.
I saw that band with him there, and they were
Yeah.
really good.
Because you know what, though? Believe it or
They
not,
did an
even,
album.
even thinking with David Lee Roth, Van Halen, a much more backed up, laid out band than Extreme ever was. Because Extreme was all like, you
More
know,
than,
he was
more than
all like
words.
getting on your.
Word of word, yeah.
Seven words. All right.
That's
Don't ever do that again, Rob. Don't ever do that again, Rob.
why Rob doesn't do karaoke.
I just said that. That's why Rob don't do
Yeah.
That's why Rob
Right.
legally has to sign documents
Although-
not to do karaoke.
Although the only reason you sound bad is because there was a lack of echo in here.
Yes.
Otherwise, you would sound like Elvis.
More than words.
Rob just caused me to lose a filling in my mouth.
Yeah.
Just cracked the filling right now in my mouth.
Hello, my name is Demaine. I'll be opening for Rob Conan this week in Atlantic City. Please come out and see us on Electric FM.
No, the truck stop on 495.
Oh, God.
In the bathroom.
You got
the
it.
truck stop on
Rob.
495.
Rob,
With Thick Willie.
yeah, Rob. This is Jason.
The Glory Hole tour.
Rob, can you never sing again? It distracts me to stare at you when you're singing. Can you please stop that? I know
I'm
you're playing
afraid
with
I may
your
never pee again.
friends. I know you're out there playing with your friends with this so-called show, but you're not making me any money, and I have to go shopping.
Lisa, he doesn't sing to you at night, does he? Oh my God.
By request, he doesn't sing to me at all. By request.
Oh my God.
He's lucky I took his ass back.
So send that money today to Rob Sings.
Rob, you better put some ice on that burn.
Oh, man, you always got to do that one that just like,
Damn.
I go one more higher.
one more.
That's why they all love me.
Oh, God.
Dan goes up to 11.
I do. I buck
He goes up to 11.
Yeah.
And with that being said, make sure you're hitting
Some
that
people's
subscribe
insults stop at 10.
button. Make sure you
Dan goes up to 11.
hit that subscribe button down below. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're sharing it to everybody. Make sure you're enjoying it. We have plenty of shows on this channel. Unlike other YouTube channels, which is only one topic or one subject matter, We have multiple things on this channel, and I want you guys to check out everything. There's stuff for everybody. There's wrestling shows. There's comedy shows like DJs After Dark. There are nerd shows like Capes Not Included. There are Have You Seen It Lately, which is a cool retrospective movies. And coming very, very soon, we have the Devereaux Sports Show coming right here to DJB Productions. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share. And once again, thank you for your support. Enjoy amongst anything else. For Rob Cannon.
Yeah.
For Dr. Rock Ray Thomas.
Stay out of vans. Love y'all.
For Fast Eddie C.
Is he still alive?
Is there a
And
pulse?
for Matt Sunner.
Hey guys.
There you go. My name is Danny J. Until next time. I'm not even prepared to do this. Maybe.
Matt, where are you at, by the way? Well, Dan's preparing.
Well, I'm preparing to get us the hell out of this show. Before you
This is kind of like where I enjoy a crowd. Imagine a crowd that's having a much better time than the one I'm in front of.
It looks like the Menudo tour from '88.
All right. Thanks,
Anyway.
guys.
Thanks, guys.
Looks like the sun's coming up. Was that as good for you as it was for me? Join us next time for DJs After Dark.